I've spoken to you before, I think.
We did.
I remember. I remember your show.
Yeah, we talked about the strange and unusual is kind of the subtitle of my show, the Mothership Radio Show, and we chatted a little bit about your life experiences with the paranormal, and I know now you have a new book out, She Walks in Beauty, which is written on your wife who passed away last year. So my condolences.
Yeah, that sort of kicked it off, and so I really wanted to look into communicating with my wife, So I did see a few mediums, and then I decided to take up a mediumship course on Zoom. With a woman called Suzanne Giesman, who's a very good medium and teacher. And it's very strange because she was an officer in the US Navy at one time, and she was very high up and in the Navy, and she lost her stepdaughter in Iraq. She was actually struck by lightning. And from that time, she decided she was going to be a medium. And so she studied at a college in England called the Arthur Findlay College. And then she takes courses in teaching people. So I in the lockdown and everything, I was interested in pursuing that. So I've done quite well, actually. My wife and I communicated pretty well.
That's great. How do you know, and what signs do you get when you are communicating with her?
Well, the thing is, Suzanne, when she teaches, she calls herself an evidential medium, where she says, "Oh, she must have solid evidence. She can't just presume she's talking to somebody. She needs something." So she says, "Oh, you need to ask for something about somebody that you don't know." So this happens all the time. I say, "Well, tell me something I'm going to see today, or tell me something about someone I don't know." And this has usually happened. What she said has happened. And funnily enough, which is very strange evidence, a few months ago, I think it was almost like March or something, March or April, she told me about Charlie Watts. And she could, because I remember Hilton Valentine passed over from the Animals, and I was tuning into her, and she said, "Oh, Charlie Watts," and she wasn't into sort of rock people, and so it was very strange. And I thought, I'm imagining this,
That's
she she didn't really say that.
What did she? Sorry, but what did she say about Charlie Watts? She just mentioned his name, and
no, she just said the name. I was something like, "Oh, watch out for Charlie Watts," or something like that.
Wow. And then it just happened.
I didn't think any more of it. Yeah, I put it in the back of my mind, and then it just happened like a week. I thought, "Oh no, she told me that."
Oh man,
funny.
What was your relationship with Charlie Watts?
Well, I didn't know him very well. I'd worked with, we worked with the Stones a few times. We did a tour in England with the Stones back in the 60s, and I'd met him in their studios and things, and he was always very nice. And I wasn't particularly close, but we always had a chat when we met, and he was very down to earth, very nice guy.
Right.
But my wife wasn't a real sort of rock and roller, she was into other things rather than rock music.
that probably made a better relationship for you, right? In a sense.
Yeah.
So,
And so,
yeah.
you know, I put all these things down in the book. Yeah, there was another story about she used to. Well, we used to go for walks because we live in a very nice part of France, and we used to go to walks in a little village about 10 miles away, which is right up in the hills, and she really loved it there. And we used to go to a little cafe right on the top of the village, just to get a coffee or a sandwich or whatever. And after she died, I went in there. I just went in there for lunch, I think, and it had been taken over by somebody else. And the woman that did own it was actually in there, and she was quite friendly with Elisabeth. And she said, she was French, and she said, yeah, she said, a couple of weeks ago, she said, I saw you and Elisabeth, and you were walking. She was very happy, Elisabeth, that you were in tears. And she couldn't understand it. And she thought, oh, that's very odd, it's not normally in tears. And when she went back into work, they told her that Elisabeth had died, and so, wow, it's quite a story.
So, I mean, it sounds like there was some good energy with her, and it sounds like you guys really kind of just were open to this. Maybe you were, I don't know, at the time. We're now that you're looking back and looking at maybe some of the coincidences that you see where you're communicating with her now. Was there any kind of, while you were married, as far as any kind of paranormal connections at all with your wife at that time? Were you interested in that kind of?
Yeah, we were always interested in channeling, sort of getting what channeling is. You're getting information from like a guide or something from another sphere,
right?
But we never went into mediumship stuff. We never looked into people that had passed over or anything like that. We were always channeling for the best way to solve a problem or to progress, and we used to do that all the time. And then when she knew she was going to die, we were talking about, well, how can we how can we communicate? Because some people I've heard from Suzanne, the medium, she said, sometimes you can have a code word, but we never had we never got to that. We just thought, we don't know, but we've done quite well. We were very close in that aspect.
Right. I mean, having that conversation prior to her passing, yes, it's that's like you're like a set it up, in a sense. I mean, I lost my dad a couple of years ago, and I kind of made like on his deathbed, in a sense, I was talking. I was like, just think about it. You can come back and haunt me if you want. To kind of put that in his head. He laughed a little bit, and we don't know what's going to go on when we're gone. It's such a mystery, obviously, to all of us. But has this changed your outlook as far as at the afterlife?
Oh, totally. Totally, because I never really, I did study Buddhism for a little while. We were both students of a Tibetan Lama. And so we went into sort of studying the Bardo, which is, a state you go into after dying. But that didn't seem to make any sense to what actually happened. The first thing I did, I was tuning into people that had near-death experiences. So I tuned into more and more YouTube, and then I got hold of a guy called Eben Alexander, who was a neurosurgeon, and he'd had his own near-death experience. He had a nasty illness that affected his brain, and it sort of more or less wiped out his brain, when he passed over temporarily. And so, being a neurosurgeon, he said, well, my brain was dead, but I was still conscious of what was going on. And I was in some, beautiful place, and I met people that I sort of knew. So, I mean, he was saying that the consciousness carries on. Even though the brain dies and the body dies, the consciousness does carry on. And so that was very interesting for me. That made a huge change to think, oh, that consciousness carries on, with everybody.
That's kind of, like I said, my father passed away in early of 2020, and my aunt passed away a couple of years prior to that. And, I've been talking about, after life type of stuff. And, you talk about, the aliens and the spirituals, the interdimensions and all that above. For me, my perspective was, she passed on, my aunt did, they just passed on, they moved on to another realm in a sense. It's kind of how I look at it too, is because, we're, here in this physical world, here we are, mind in our, in our head, our brain in our head. Where does it go? It's got to go interdimensional. I mean, I don't know. I'm just guessing, but just thinking about where else are we going to go? It's got to be in our mind somewhere. And we,
I know. And it seems like everybody does still exist, and it's also not in such a bad place, because most of these near-death experiences, the people don't really want to come back because it's so nice.
Right. And I've heard many stories that are very similar. I mean, that's how you have to kind of judge this being kind of legit, is going, hey, wait, this person over here in India has the same experiences as this person in Australia, as this person does in, in Japan. And
yeah. Oh, yes. There's some amazing coincidences, things that happen.
Right.
Synchronicity. Yeah.
Did you, following the spiritual kind of, the paths, and, with you recognizing in your career, your long career of music, do you look back and look at any kind of coincidences that might have helped you along the way as kind of a tie-in to this kind of spiritual world you're in now? Do you look back and say, wow, that was really...
Yes, well, I've written all about it in the book. I've gone back to when I was on the road and everything, and what Keith, Ralph the singer, and I used to talk about, and what we, all the stuff we were interested in, and all the old books we were interested in, and even writing the song, Happenings 10 years time ago, that was basically about, reincarnation. And other songs, and so I've tried to tie it in, but I've had some interesting experiences, but I've seen, not really seen a ghost, but I've seen something appeared to me one night, which was a bit odd, but it was it was quite a pleasant experience. It wasn't a horrible one, but I was a bit freaked out, it was a bit odd.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, yes, I was reading, it was in the 70s, and I was reading a book about the other side, and about people, what people doing over there. And I must have been quite intensely into it, and I went to sleep, and I woke up, and I sort of looked up, and there was like a face forming that was sort of drawn. It was like, if you're drawing a face gradually, it was coming together, And the whole thing was like suddenly appearing, like as if somebody was drawing it. And I thought, oh, this is a bit weird, and I didn't really want to look anymore. And I talk about it in the book, and I was a bit frightened, and I sort of turned and looked the other way. I didn't want to see anymore, and so I didn't sleep very well. But when I woke up when I got up the next day, I was totally energized. I wasn't tired but it happened to me again, and I was always hoping, oh, please let it happen again. I'll go with it this time.
That's interesting. We talked about one time when my last time I had you on the show, where you in the band, you had actually stopped at a crop circle during a tour.
Oh yes.
So that for me, that was pretty interesting that you'd actually. I mean, I imagine back in the 60s, there wasn't any signs that said, "Hey, here's the crop circle, come check it out." I mean, you must have seen it on the road and looked into it. I'm just curious. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a bit later. I think it was in the 90s. It was when crops, there were more, there was more interest, national interest in crop circles. And I happened to be passing through Glastonbury, and there was a lecture on by some scientist, alternative scientist. He was talking about it, and he told us we were actually going back to London, and he told us about a new crop circle that he found out about, which was on the way. So we had a look at it. He told us exactly where it was.
Yeah, they're pretty popular in England. I know that. So there's a ton over there. I know they're always popping up. So you're interested in the paranormal in the world, in the Yardbirds, of course, Jimmy Page, famously is, involved in the occult, Aleister Crowley's place, what have you. How much of that was an influence for you, or how much did you look at that and think, wow, that's fascinating to me?
Well, yeah, that's in the book as well. But we had a different thing going to him in a way. Keith and I had our own little stuff going, and actually, when he was in the band, he never really spoke about it. He kept it very much to himself. But now and then he would talk about something a bit strange, but he never went into Aleister Crowley or into black magic or anything like that.
So as far as the music, you mentioned your song talking about reincarnation. How much, because you were at the precipice of psychedelic rock. I mean, you were right there at the beginning of it all. So going deeper into the mind with topics, I mean, was that something that, as far as the band was concerned, was a topic that you had to touch upon, or was that just a topic that was just a natural fit for you guys?
Well, we were interested in all that sort of thing. I mean, anything that was a bit odd, or anything that was a bit strange. We liked it all. And Keith was very much into all that. He liked to go and lie on a gravestone and things like that. Quite funny. We did. It was a sort of natural for us, and something like "Still I'm Sad" was nice, because people would say, "Oh, it reminds me of being, in a beautiful, monastery or somewhere really peaceful," and it took your mind somewhere very pleasant.
So what do you, as far as today goes, this world is pretty crazy as we look outside of it. For you, how are you handling all this right now? As far as like where you're at in your career, life is here. You're pondering life right now. You're looking at the other side. You've always looked at the other side. Where do you see yourself now as far as compared to maybe 10, 15 years ago? Has it changed that radically for you?
Well, it was a big blow with my wife, because we were very close. We did a lot of things. We actually came to France together. It was like a decision we made together, and so now I'm a bit slightly at a loss, but I'm having to work quite hard at being being in a very positive state, and doing meditations and thinking positively about things, and not really getting involved in all that new stuff. All the virus stuff and all that. I just don't. I mean, I know what's going on, but I don't really think about it too much.
Yeah. It's hard to stay focused on ourselves, and I'm in the same boat as you. I'm really not watching the news. I have my own daily affirmations of positivity that I wake up to, and and I think through my head as well. And I think that's important, as far as people here on this planet and on this earth, is how much we're not focusing in on our own positivity, but we're so scared of what's outside of the world that we can't control. But if we worked on ourselves, it's something, I don't know, that's you've traveled the world, you've seen people all over this planet, so where are you with other people as far as where do you think the world is, the planet is, as far as catching up to the reality of life on this planet?
Well, it depends. Depends how you think, in a way. I mean, you can get dragged down, but you have to be, as you say, you have to be very positive to the affirmation. You work on yourself and connect, and you actually do. I actually do meet some very interesting people and some very good people, and I'm also led. I believe my wife is with me now, and she knows a lot more than me what's going on, because she's in that situation. So and she's able to see the future and things like that. Because little things like that have happened to me. She said, "Oh, don't don't do that or do this," and little foretold things have happened, which have been interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you are in tune. You are in tune with her to receive these messages.
Well, yeah, but I think being in tune is quite a big, it could be quite a big thing. You could be in tune with a lot of positive force. There's obviously a lot of positive force around as well.
It's for everyone. That's the thing, is that we're so, like you said, scared and we're worried about other things we can't control. It prevents us from really opening ourselves up to what's really out there and the possibilities of the positive energy that is out there that's waiting for us.
Yes, and it's the ego, it really, isn't it? When we're thinking about our fears, or what we're gonna do, where do we? As long as we try and think about ourselves, that's where things get tricky. If we think more about others, and we send good energy out to people and think positive, it's all a part of the whole thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, playing music is one of the strongest ways to communicate positivity, as far as
yeah.
And your music, the Yardbirds, I mean, I listen to it. It's very upbeat. It's very good. It's fun to listen to. I mean, in a way, it is positive. No matter what you're talking about, in a sense, there's the music and the beat, the drive, kind of really, it motivates you.
Yeah, and it still stands up for some reason. It always sounds fun, and we're not trying to get anything over. I don't know. A couple of people sent me the Eric Clapton thing, his latest thing, and I thought, well, it's very well done, but it's not really for me,
You talk about the newer in today's world, there's a TV show called Ted Lasso that's very big, and your song Over Under Sideways Down is being featured on it. So I mean, your music is it's always going to be around for us, which is the wonderful thing about it. So
what is that, a show, a TV show?
Yeah, it's a TV show. It's on one of the paid cable channels you got to pay for. I was looking up there, so they're spinning that song. I don't know if I'm breaking the news to you right now. So, um,
Well, that's good to know.
yeah, no, it's just it's just it's a testament to what you provided for the world. It's
Yeah, well, that's nice, and it's always very bright and upbeat, isn't it? That it's good fun.
yeah, right. No, it's a fun song. We talk about on this show we'll spin the topic just a little bit here. Um, to aliens and UFOs. How does that equate for you with all this spirituality that you're involved in now?
When it sort of still comes into it, I think it's still, yeah. I was always very interested in all that. We were always into that, and all those old books like Chariots of the Gods. Do you remember that and all that? All that stuff, and everything about Atlantis and all that. We used to read all that stuff, and I'm sure there's all sorts of aliens around.
Do you think Atlantis existed? Or I mean, like, as far as our human history, I'm not talking country history, I'm talking about human history on this planet. There's so much we don't know.
Yes,
there's so much in the past. I mean, is that what's something you want to explore a little bit more, this real history?
Yes, I've read some books. There's a lot of these alternative science people like Greg Braden. Have you heard of him?
It sounds familiar.
Yeah, and Bruce Lipton, people like him. And Greg Braden talks about the history of the world is going back thousands and thousands of years, in different civilizations that, not just what we learn at school. It's not like 2,000 years to Jesus Christ or whatever. It's a long way back. And there's been many changes, and many cultures that were peace loving, and they weren't warring with each other, and they were different, and it's very it's much bigger than we know, as you said.
And I don't know if the regular person can handle that kind of news, that kind of information of like, by the way, this isn't the first time human beings have been on this planet. This isn't the first time, we go back, ancient, eons and eons, and how many types of, people inhabited this planet. Sure. I mean, it's been recycled so many times. There's tons of theories of humans as well, as far as evolving on this planet. One thing that stands out to me is this one lecture from a scientist named Lloyd Pye, who wrote a book called Everything You Know Is Wrong.
Right.
So check this out. So the theory is that when you have all the cavemen and the Neanderthal type of bodies and the skeletons, all of a sudden you have the human skeleton. So there's like a gap, that whole missing link thing that we've always talked about, that missing link. Still nothing's been found, and there's like, it should be thousands of years of evolvement between this style of human being versus this style of human being. So to me, that fascinates me, to think that all of a sudden we're kind of like not standing up tall. Our heads are huge, our jaws are huge, and then all of a sudden humans are like me and you. And and the idea is that the humans were DNA'd from primates.
Yes.
So that's the philosophy on that end. I was curious on your thoughts on that.
Yes, I'm not sure about that. That's all the stuff that Greg Braden talks about as well. The guy on the origin of Darwin. Darwin's origin of species. It's all it's all out the window, really. It's not relevant.
Right. Well, I think a lot of the things, the more we learn, the more we're going to look back and go, I don't think that was right back then. I don't think they told us what was right.
But I mean, I don't know where this virus thing fits in. You know, it's very odd, isn't it? It's never happened before, is it? Not really in our lifetime. You know, all the virus thing going on.
Yeah, when they said 100 years ago it happened, and there's been recorded histories of viruses and what have you. It's nothing we can control. It happens. It's out there. If it's people think it's real, if people don't think it's real, it doesn't matter. People are getting sick and people are dying. I mean, that's just the fact of what we're seeing from what it is now. Whether it's really contagious, whether you really need to wear a mask, that's depending on the scientists of what they're recommending. That's fine. I don't really care, to be honest with you. I'm like, if that's what needs to be done, I'll do it. We'll all just get over with it. If we all just took our medicine, we would have been done with this, a year ago, probably. So what amazes me about the whole virus thing is really it's the human reaction to it. It's the human reaction to not wanting to participate in the overall health of the planet. And some people want to not do that. But for no reason in my mind, it's a strange flex in my mind to go against this when all you have to do is wear a mask. But that's me.
But well, I know, and there's a big movement that thinks we're all getting taken over, or there's some sort of weird thing going on, and it's a bit of fear-based. It's all fear-based, I think.
And here you are. I mean, you were living the summer of love, and now here we are in 2020, and it couldn't be more the opposite than that right now. So you've experienced it, you lived through it. I mean, what's that dichotomy of the two?
Well, I think it's still relevant. I think that's all. The summer of love is still relevant. It's why not be positive and loving? And I saw something the other day, and they were saying, cancer is just about. It's a bit like if we stop wars and things, then we stop cancer. We stop people thinking horrible thoughts on each other.
That's what it is. I mean, it's really your energy and your vibration you send out. If you're always negative and you're constantly depressed and what have you, you're always going to bring that onto you. So it's not it's and that's the power that we have that I think we need to be taught. It needs to be learned. To tap into that energy, that vibration. And I think it's tougher when you get older, of course. When you're not really accomplishing your dreams, and you got bills to pay, and life's rough, so you're focused on other things as opposed to what you should be focused on, which is your own happiness and your own positivity, because that, like you say, take care of that, it should multiply.
It's all about trust and compassion and all those things, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And for I'm 51. I'm getting on as well. So the reality of my death is, it's hit home a lot sooner with my father passing a couple of years ago, my aunt a couple of years prior to that. So the reality of life hit me really hard. And so my perspective on my outlook has changed twofold. I've done a lot more things for myself, knowing that my future, what it could look like if I don't do things like take care of my health, take care of my my body and what have you, because that's not far away now.
No, it's important, isn't it?
Yeah,
all that stuff. Yeah, that's good. But you look pretty good shape.
Yeah, well, I've never been married. I have no kids, so I think I'm gonna. I'll use that as my excuse.
And it sounds like a very interesting program. I mean, I remember before John, and he said, there's a guy got about this paranormal type of show, and it's great. What a great thing to do.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I was a regular DJ on a radio station in Phoenix, Arizona. I was on Monday through Friday for 3 hours a day. And I had a lot of time to fill, so I decided to use 1 hour and talk about aliens, because this was 2015, and Ancient Aliens on TV was a big show, and I thought I could bring that to the radio and encompass rock music that is influenced by aliens or the paranormal, songs that are, maybe written about those type of topics, and interview people like yourself who have had experiences or who are interested in this type of field. And John's been amazing. I mean, he's been really, I can't say enough about some of the people he's connected me with, like you, and it's.
I think he's going to send you the book.
Yes, I
Kevin.
hope. Yes, I'd love to read it. I can't wait.
Yeah, I think you'll enjoy it. There's a lot in there that you'd like.
Yeah, I'm really curious on some of the stuff you've as far as the synopsis that I've read. Your touring days, your basically your life in general, your journey, and some of the things you've done, your pilgrimage to India, China. You talked about Buddhism in the Himalayas. Wartime bomb sites. I mean, that for you to write that in the synopsis, I'm curious on that. Was wartime bomb sites something that impacted you a lot? Was that a heavy thing for you?
Well, when we were just kids, and we didn't really realize that how awful that was for people. We were just used to playing on the bomb sites, and we're playing old wrecks and ruins, and it was all good fun. And but then I remember talking to someone. They said, "Oh, they're just 200 yards on the next block from where I lived, there was a pub, and it got bombed one Saturday night, and it was full of people, and it was just completely, destroyed." And I only remembered it because I used to play down in the basement. We used to play ball against the wall, and all that stuff. And for us, they were just playgrounds. But it must have been, when you think of a whole block's been knocked out, by bombs in the war. That was pretty awful, really, wasn't it?
I can't imagine it. Obviously, I mean,
when I had a session with the medium, she picked up my mother, actually, who's on the other side, and the medium could hear the bomb sirens going. She
wow.
said I could hear the sirens going.
That's crazy. So that makes you feel the energy was captured at that time.
Yeah.
And that's the energy that she picked up, was the moment of those bombs hitting. That's
well, you can imagine what that did to you, hearing that siren. It filled you full of fear,
traumatizing.
Horrifying.
Yeah, right. I just it's just sad that we as humans can do that to each other. It's just
I know, dreadful, isn't it?
It is. I mean, it's the two different humans. You have I think it's your type A's and your type B's. Your highly aggressive people versus your laid back people. And the laid back people need a win, as far as I'm concerned.
And there's these poor people trying to escape from Afghanistan, and they get like bombed on the way out. It's terrible.
For what reason? There's this. I mean, you can't leave our world because we're gonna kill you anyway if you stay. I mean, it's like this.
What's the point of that?
There's no point.
Oh dear, it's terrible.
Like I said, when we should have been progressing so much. So these last 30, 40 years, 50 years, we've been, but we haven't been progressing as a humanity overall. There's still pockets of BS everywhere that still need to be resolved before we can, move together, I think, as a whole. That's the hippie in me talking, I have that in me. I wish it was more prevalent in people, and I wish they were a little bit more aware of it. Those medium chants are very fascinating. Do you get addicted to them at all? Do you feel like you want to keep doing them like once a week or more, or can you do them on your own?
Well, I do. No, I have to be a bit. I don't want to overdo it, but I've seen about 3 or 4 different mediums now, but it's been very similar. They've said very similar things. So it does seem to be true. They haven't said anything different from each other. So it's all very common when they talk about Elisabeth. It's all very clear.
Yeah. That's, I mean, what goes on in your mind when you medium after medium keeps coming up with the same thing? You're like, this is real. I mean, no other way around it.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing, isn't it? But you just think, well, she's there. I mean, she's all around, but I just can't see her.
You can feel her, though.
Yes, I could feel it. I could feel her coming and going. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, do you feel like maybe like warm breezes come through, or do you feel kind of like maybe the smell of her scent?
Yeah, well, no, what I get, and somebody did tell me this, sometimes I can feel it in my hair, like somebody's touching my hair.
Oh, wow, okay.
You know, my head, top of my head. I can feel that. And somebody did tell me that a medium did say, oh, she does touch your top of the back of your hair.
And it doesn't scare you, right?
No, it's very pleasant. It's very, because she had a very reassuring thing about her that I found very positive. She was because I tend to be, you know, like slightly depressive in nature, though I try and be upbeat. But my nature is like depressive, but she would always lift me up all the time, and they told me that as well, that she would lift you up, and I always found it very reassuring. So it's very reassuring when she touches my hair.
And maybe when you see things, you're like, it might be a sign when you see something that she's placed there just to make you happy or something to make you smile.
Oh, yes, I've seen things. I've seen feathers on the floor, you know, and I've seen little flowers on the floor and things like that.
I think it's cool that you're zoned in on that, you know, that you're no,
sweet.
It is. I mean, because I think everyone's getting these signs, and I think a lot of people don't pick up on them, you know, or I don't think a lot of people are opened up to seeing these, because it's a different type of magic to a certain degree of what they're used to.
Well, exactly, because you have to be open. You have to be, you know, watching for them.
Yeah, no, you're right, and I feel like I am. I had one experience where I felt on my shoulder. I felt an actual hand grab my shoulder. I wasn't scared, but I looked and there was nobody there. But it was like a really interesting feeling. But it was a hand on my shoulder. I know it, and but I mean, I don't really get that. Was, you know, maybe 10 years ago, but you know, I don't get them very often, so I'm trying to like be more open to those kind of experiences.
Was it a reassurance thing, or
I don't, you know, I wasn't in the best situation of my life. I was, you know, in a house with a few other guys. We were sharing a house, and but we were having a good time. I was just sitting there with a group of other people, and just on my shoulder. That's where it was. But it was an assurance kind of feeling to it. Like it was a strong, like someone took your shoulder and like squeezed it a little bit. And so it wasn't, like I said, I wasn't scared, and it felt comfortable. I just was like, who's doing that? You know, I was like, who's touching my shoulder? Nobody was there. It was just a bizarre, like, whoa. You know, it's just that's, I don't get very many of those, but you know, I'm very open to it. If you know, I'll try to figure out what it is.
Yes. And I think the more we open up, the more those things tend to happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
We open up that.
But it opens up both ways. Now, if you're negative, you're going to open up a bad way to get some energy. But if you're positive and open up to, you'll have more pleasant experience.
I find there are two sides. You know, there's one side that, oh, I don't believe that. You know, I don't believe she's doing that. You know, and then I can go over and believe it all, and be totally fine with it.
Right.
No, there's two sides in our head.
Yeah, and that's right. And it's what you say, the ego is one of them too. You got to worry about that with
Yeah,
the thoughts the ego
yeah,
brings out.
yeah,
Just kind of ruin your day, or they want to. And I watch
yeah,
videos. I'm like, guys talking about when you get a bad thought to say, I release you, or, get out of here, or whatever it is, Um,
yeah.
this is a lot of challenges to be alive, Jim.
Certainly is. Certainly is. And it seems like when everyone does pass over, it's a very pleasant experience. I mean, there's only good there. There's nothing bad. There's no judgment or anything like that. There's no one saying, "Oh, you've done wrong. You've done wrong. You've got to go in prison or something." You know what I mean? There's no judge. There's nothing bad about it.
Yeah.
It's just very loving and very, very, very good.
And that makes you wonder why here on earth we're talking about, you're going to go to hell and bad things are going to happen to
Yeah, I
you.
know.
I mean, there might be, like, for really, really bad people, a certain level of afterlife. I don't know, but you kind of hope so to a certain degree. But um, our vessels inside our human bodies are what will continue on. Um,
Yeah,
Now, as far as what, like when we pass on, chances are I'm not going to be Kevin Gassman looking back on my life going this, but I'll be more of a soul looking back
yeah,
on the experiences that we've had, knowing that's who I
yeah,
played, in a sense. I mean, that's through all the conversations that I've had in the past 6-7 years on this kind of topic. That comes up a lot too, is that we're souls occupying this body to experience the universe. It's the universe experiencing itself. And then when we're done, we review our experience, kind of thing. That's
yeah,
one
yeah,
theory. Um,
yeah,
so, but it could be a lot of things. I mean, on different planes and different dimensions, I could be Kevin Gassman all the time, and you're Jim McCarty all the time. And that's one world of one piece of the puzzle, I guess. It's always going.
Well, there seems no end to it. You could be Kevin Gassman, but you could be somewhere else at the same time, or
Right.
there seems to be no limit.
Right. And I mean, past lives too. You talk about your song about reincarnation. And I'm gonna get the title. Happening 10 years time ago, which is a great song, by the way. I mean, just a really,
Yeah,
it's just a really cool song. The reincarnation, coming back to as a different life, but also your past lives. Where I talked to a medium a little while ago, well, I say a long time ago, who told me that my past life, I was a female entertainer in the 30s.
oh really? That's
Yes.
great.
And apparently I was a big star. And I think it was in Hollywood. Maybe that's why I'm in LA now. I don't know. But, if you ever gone back to past lives, has anybody ever told you about your past lives?
Well, I've done a bit. You could be. I've recently come across a couple of people that do regression.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a guy called Rob Schwartz who's done some interesting books about past lives, and your soul's plan was one of his books, and he can regress you, and you just remember, you tend to remember things. But I remembered a couple, yeah,
Yeah.
a couple of things. But
And you want to share? Do you want to share one of them, or?
well, they weren't particularly strong. I think I remember being with my wife. My wife was just passed, and we were different because I was the one that was dying, and she was caring for me. So we swapped.
Oh wow.
We swapped our roles.
Hmm.
And Rob Schwartz does say, oh, you can make a contract with your partner that before you're born, that knows what's going to happen. And he said, oh, it's very common that one of the partners dies of cancer. It's quite a common thing. And the other one is a carer, which happened. This happened. I was caring for my wife and she died of cancer. He was saying that's very common. You can make that agreement before you're born. So you know what's coming on a level.
Well, think about that now. Down the road, you'd be like, all right, well, this time I'm going to do this for you, and you're going to do this for me, and just kind of have, that kind of rotation of, all right, I'll do this. I believe in the contract thing. I believe that there are, like, everybody we meet in life is meant to be. So whether me and you have had a contract of some sort in the past, to say, all right, well, let's meet up somewhere down the road where we'll talk about this, is unknown. But I mean, supposedly everyone in your life has been contracted in your pre-life, in a sense. So everyone already knows their role, and that's a fascinating concept.
Well, the interesting thing is that with that, then you don't, you're not a victim. You're not a victim anymore. You've actually agreed. You've agreed on this beforehand, so you can't say, "Oh, well, I'm a victim to life." You know what I mean?
No, that's a great point. That's an excellent point, actually, to think about that, because now you're looking back, it's like, well, because the reason why I went through this problem is because that was the lesson I'm supposed to learn. So if you kind of idea it in that perspective, I think that would be very beneficial for our personal growth. So it's just I can go all day with this kind of conversation, Jim. It's fascinating, and you put it in a book. She Walks in Beauty: My Quest for the Bigger Picture by Jim McCarty, and Dave Thompson helped you write that as well. So I mean, it seems fascinating. I'm looking forward to reading it for sure. I mean, in the book, are you, besides exploring your experiences in the book, are there life lessons you're leaving for people?
I don't know. It's that deep. I think it's really observations. Really what I've observed through my life, and the sort of the journey, as you said, and it's all very sort of all linked as you go along. And
so when you look back, I mean, you're so accomplished, Hall of Fame drummer, the Yardbirds. I mean, the band that was, just so influential to the world, in a sense. What do you look back on as far as your biggest accomplishment for you, as far as your life goes? What makes you go, man, I'm so glad, this happened for myself? And
well, I think the greatest thing was that I managed to, I didn't, I didn't make millions by playing. We broke up sort of a bit too early for all that, but I did manage to stay in music, and I've always loved it. And I still am now. I still love being involved in music, writing and singing as well as drumming. So I loved it, and I'm very grateful to that.
Are you so still writing music? How much of your new life experiences are going to be in the words of your new songs?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's a lot of that's a lot of creative input there.
Yeah, that means a wealth of stuff to dive into, for sure. I mean,
a lot.
There's a ton. I can't thank you so much. I can't thank you enough for your time today. It's almost been an hour, so I don't want to keep you much too longer. I do appreciate your time. I appreciate you, and I want to thank you for the music you've provided for us. I mean, I played today still. I still love it. So thank you for that. And thank you.
All right, Kevin. It was a very nice conversation.
Well, I appreciate that. And you take care.
Very good.
And maybe we'll. Yep.
And if John doesn't send you one, I'll send you one, and we'll make sure you get one.
Yes, I appreciate that. I look forward to it. Maybe we'll talk again after that. I get it. I can dive deeper into the book with you.
Okay.
Thanks, Jim. Thank you so much.
All right.
Have a great night.
A lot.
All right. Bye now.